Welcome to Skin Side Out, where we uncover the science, trends, and truths behind skin health. Your trusted guide to the world of dermatology. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional.
Welcome to Skin Side Out, where science meets beauty. My name is Dr. Zain, and I'm joined with PA Heather and my esthetician, Courtney. So today we're going to be discussing our New Year's resolutions. We're at the end of January, so how did we all do?
It's coming along.
So let's have a little, deeper dive into what our New Year's resolutions were.
I think for me, my main resolution was to read more. Fortunately, I do have a patient that has been bringing me some books, so it is so sweet of her. I've been stockpiling them, but now I just have to get through them.
Yeah.
Mine's going pretty well. I'm trying to be more consistent with my workout routine, trying to do more yoga. From a wellness perspective, I am trying to journal more.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of tragic losses over the last year or so. So just trying to, write down my thoughts, trying to improve my mental health.
Yeah. And this year I'm really focusing on, spending time with my kids and being really engaged, avoiding screens and just being intentional with my time with them. So it's really hard with screens so pervasive and everywhere. So just putting away the iPads, the cell phone, just really having one-on-one time together. So, that's mine for this year. But one of the most common, resolutions we see are, usually regarding weight loss. With the holidays, people put on a few pounds with all the festivities, great food. And a lot of people are just looking to shed a few pounds in the new year and have a healthier lifestyle.
We are kind of wanting to focus on weight loss and try to figure out why it's such a top resolution for most people. In 2024, the Google charts did mention that 35% of people were trying to lose weight. Obesity rates have tripled since the 1970s. It's related to so many diseases, cancer, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. I mean, the list goes on. But I think the biggest thing that people strive for and make it a resolution is because there's some sort of motivating factor. They want to do it to be healthier for their kids, or they want to feel more self-confident. So I think there's a big drive for people to have that desire in the new year. Courtney, I know you and one of your patients were talking about the struggles of weight loss as a resolution.
Yeah, I think, it's easy in the beginning. We kind of get this mentality like new year, new me. And so we're very driven to do everything we can so fast and completely change everything all at once. So whether that means going to the gym every single day for God knows, maybe 2 hours, and then making sure, you're only eating your meats and veggies and cutting out carbs. And I think we kind of plow through those first couple weeks, but it's not sustainable. And we end up falling off that because we haven't created this long-term plan to basically hold us accountable. So I think just the inconsistencies as far as how quickly we do things and how much we do things, and it kind of dies off slowly can be really troubling.
I think sustainability is key. We have to create habits and behaviors that, we sort of integrate into our lifestyles. And this is something that's going to be long going. So I do think that's really important to set realistic expectations as well from the get-go. I mean, a lot of people just want these huge overnight transformations, and they're like literally starving themselves and like working out at the gym, like when they haven't been in the gym in the past few months. And it's not sustainable. And, as soon as, you try it for a few weeks, you fall off the bandwagon, and it can lead to, even in a worse place than you were before. So I do think that that's really important.
Yeah. And it can lead to even like injury, I mean, if you haven't been to the gym in a couple of months, especially around the holidays, we've all been there, we're eating a lot more we're with family.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the gym and you're just going super hard, you're putting yourself at risk for muscle injury and just, joint pain, things like that.
Yeah. So. It's not just the number on the scale. I mean, I think that's really important. People should really be focusing on health measures, being healthier, and whether, you're looking at, lab markers such as like hemoglobin A1C for like, your insulin resistance and your diabetic control, blood pressure, or just how you feel. And, with certain activities, daily living activities, I think that's really important. That's more I think, essential than just looking at an arbitrary number.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of how I base off my weight and my health is, I mean, maybe about once a month weighing myself, but typically it's just looking in the mirror and kind of, being happy with myself, my jeans kind of fitting the way I want them, like things like that I look for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like that BMI measure, like it doesn't account for muscle mass and other factors. So it can kind of skew things. It doesn't give you the full picture.
I am a big hater of the BMI system.
Yeah. So we kind of wanted to dive into different weight loss solutions. I'll kind of start out with the tried and true, the traditional methods. So diet and exercise. With diet, it's very well known that if you're caloric deficient, meaning that you are burning more calories than you are taking in, then, that can result in weight loss. But it also can be, making sure that you are also getting a balanced diet. You're not trying to fall for those fad diets or crash diets like the keto, paleo, juicing, the cabbage soup diet. I think you can definitely lose some weight on those, but they're not sustainable. I think, too, with diet, we need to think of emotional eating and eating disorders, especially in people who are trying to lose weight. I think, you definitely don't want to be over the top tracking every single calorie. It could trigger any sort of emotional or eating disorder.
Definitely had my bout with like the Weight Watchers where you're putting in every single calorie of what you're eating through the day. And it is so exhausting. And I feel like you don't feel very like rewarded in the end. It's just constantly like, oh, I got to do this, do that. And in the long run, I just don't think it's great for your mental health.
Yeah. And then the exercise too, that's, resistance training, cardio, HIIT workouts. There's always options that you can do to increase your metabolism that way as well. Have you guys tried any of these, or what has seemed to work for you guys?
No, the keto and I don't eat meat, so keto would probably not work for me. And cabbage soup just sounds disgusting.
I've definitely done some of the HIIT training before, and it's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of stress on joints. Yeah, and the recoveries can be a little brutal. I've also done, Insanity. I did that with Dr. Amna one summer, which was fun, but also very, very intense. And I also did CrossFit too, and that was a disaster because, I got injured. Just you're not used to, doing those workouts, and it's just really hard on the joints. I have my own, fitness journey that I went on myself. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background, 2020, that was the start of that global pandemic. It was a crazy year. I was 1 year into starting a practice, a dermatology practice in New Jersey. The world shut down in March. Then I'm at home. I had to shut down my practice, furlough my employees, and just kind of try to keep my practice afloat. I had a 2-year-old I was taking care of. With my wife, and it was just really depressing. The gyms closed down. That was kind of my outlet. I love, doing fitness. Like I always had huge respect for exercise. I played soccer, track, and lacrosse, always kept fit. But this was the first time like I really wasn't able to keep up with that routine anymore. I tried my best with my home gym, but I just wasn't in that same space. I wasn't working out as regularly. Also, I felt like my mental health also took a toll. I think a lot of people did during that time. Anxiety, trouble sleeping, probably some depression too. Like it was not an easy time for anyone. So by the end of the year, I was not feeling good. I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, who is this? Like, I don't feel like myself. I don't look like myself. I was getting winded chasing after my 2-year-old. And I was like, I'm only 35. Like, how could I feel like this right now? So I made a resolution right then and there, and it was actually around January when we were making our New Year's resolution, like, hey, I am going to get in the best shape of my life. And I was really motivated. So I actually did a transformation program. I got the inspiration from my friends, who was also a dermatologist, Dr. Bonasali, who had done a transformation of himself. Oh, cool. And, hey, I joined it, and it was intense, like nutrition, training, mindset. I mean, it was focused on all that, but like literally, like this was the first time I was weighing my food, every meal, accountable for everything that I put into my body, weight training 6 days a week, cardio like 2 to 3 sessions a week.
Wow.
And it was a lot. And, you know, I went through the journey over a year and a half. I, you know, got to my goal dose, and like it was a much lower dose than weight that I was expecting to hit, based on my coach's recommendation. They're like, you know, I want you to get to 125 pounds. I'm like, I didn't weigh that.
Wow.
Like, since I was in middle school. I'm
Literally.
but, you know, like they were able to guide me. I mean, they've done so many transformations in the past, and, you know, we were able to get there, but it was hard.
Slay queen.
Yeah.
Who taught this man
cringe.
Photoshop?
I don't want to look at this, but yeah, but
That's
I mean,
impressive.
yeah, thanks. But, you know, as you can see, like I was just not in a good place.
Dad bod in it.
Yeah, I totally was encompassing the dad bod. There's nothing wrong with the dad bod, but I just didn't want to be, you know, seen as that. And I wanted to be active and healthy for my kids.
How'd you feel during this?
Well, I felt that I definitely moved better. I had more mobility. I felt stronger, but I also felt miserable. Like, especially when we were on like these really low calorie days, like some like hovering around 1,000 calories. I was like literally almost starving myself.
Wow.
My mood was off. I had brain fog. And, you know, by the time I did my fitness shoot, like I was like done. Like, this is not sustainable. This is not something that I could continue. So I kind of feel for, you know, my patients who are on like severely restrictive diets, intense programs, because it is hard.
Calorie counting.
The calorie counting. And it was definitely affecting my mental health with that too. You know, although I looked awesome, like this was the best shape I've been in my life, but it just wasn't worth it. I really just wanted to kind of get back to a happier medium. So I used some of those tasks, those lessons that I've learned along the way, and just incorporated them into my lifestyle, more sustainable, more friendly. And I just feel like that has helped me significantly.
Yeah, I'm stressing that just because you're lower in your weight doesn't always mean you're going to be at your healthiest.
Yeah.
Skinny doesn't always equate to this healthy body, you know?
Yeah, skinny kind of seems to be coming back in style, and I'm not crazy about that because a lot of people that look so skinny just don't look healthy.
I know. Well, you see a lot of like the Ariana Grande controversy right now, just as far as that goes. And it was funny talking about you know, feeling. She had said on a podcast or an interview that when she was, you know, at her unhealthiest, she looked more healthy, and now she feels like she's at her healthiest. But you know, and it's hard to know what's going on behind the scenes. But
maybe there's a little body dysmorphia as well going on.
Yeah, so it's hard. I think, you know, like Heather said, it's kind of you see this kind of trend coming back where we are getting away from that kind of like Kim Kardashian like body type with like fullness and thickness, and kind of moving back into this you know, 90s-esque skinny, you know, Paris Hilton type.
Yeah. And, you know, as a girl dad, I have 3 girls, and I find it concerning. I want them to have healthy images in their mind of what, you know, healthy looks like. And these really thin, you know, portrayals in the media, I think can be really harming, especially for self-esteem. And for these girls trying to live up to these unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
Actually, we just watched Wicked with my family, like on TV. Like we rented it, and it was an awesome movie. But like my daughter is like looking at Ariana Grande. She's like, she's so pretty. I wish I could be like her, and she's only 7 years old. I'm like, you know, like I didn't want to say anything, but those are fears that come across, you know, my mind when I see my kids growing up.
Yeah. And I know we're about to kind of get into procedures, but yeah, just kind of reiterating the importance of loving the skin you're in and the body, and that we're all really big advocates, I think, of that love for yourself. But also, that being said, like there are, you know, things that if they can be tweaked, I mean, let's say you are healthy, but we were talking earlier about genetics and how some people, even no matter how much weight you lose, there might still be certain areas that are predisposed to having that fat. So Kybella, for example, I know we're doing a lot of that as of late. People are losing this weight, and this area is still holding that fat. So I think that's a really nice adjunct to some of this dieting that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think diet and exercise definitely have their place, but you have to do it in the right way. You don't want to overdo it. Yeah. But speaking of procedures, there are definitely a lot of procedures that can help target fat loss, weight loss. So, Dr. Husain, do you want to touch on Kybella?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I'm going to mention are targeted areas that we can treat in the office. So, with diet, exercise, weight training, we get fat loss globally throughout the body. So we're talking about more areas of stubborn fat deposition that we can treat. So Kybella is an excellent example of a treatment that we can do in the office. So it's actually synthetic deoxycholic acid. And basically it is injected into the submental or double chin area to dissolve fat. And it's really interesting because it came from a concept from our own bodies. The pancreas has deoxycholic acid, which our body uses to dissolve fat. So some brilliant person thought, hey, why not create a synthetic version of it and see if we can localize and target fat? And that's what they've done. And, we see some great results with Kybella, with the submental area. It may take several sessions, but you can get permanent fat reduction in that area. And some patients have just that genetic predisposition. They could be doing well in terms of their fat loss goals elsewhere on their bodies, but they just have the stubborn fat right here. So it is a good option that, you can use in that area. And I know many of my colleagues are also using it off-label, other parts of the body, like bra fat. The banana rolls, the abdomen.
What are banana rolls?
It's that little fat that's underneath your buttock.
I've never heard of that either.
Yeah. So, that is definitely an option for localized fat destruction. Along that vein, like CoolSculpting or cryolipolysis, certain laser procedures and energy-based devices that, heat up the fat tissue can help destroy fat cells. So these are, procedures that can be done in the office. But I do think that with Kybella, you have a little bit more versatility in targeting, and you can kind of use it in conjunction with fillers and other, energy-based devices to really get a nice chiseled jawline and a nice, silhouette and profile.
The results on Kybella have been significantly more than what I've seen with CoolSculpting. I used to hate doing CoolSculpting back in the day when I did it, just because the patient type that you want to have is a very particular person. And for its cost, I really don't find that it's that efficacious in treating some of those areas, whereas I do think the Kybella is a nice fit.
Yeah, and I'm a skincare junkie and I love procedures, and I've tried CoolSculpting for my abdomen and it hurts. Oh my God.
That
people
massage.
say it is not painful, I nearly passed out from the massage.
I was sick
It is
with
a pain that I can't even describe. It was excruciating.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but after for months, because you're numb for months. So my nerve endings took months to cut. So I'd feel these little zaps, and it was so debilitating. I will never do that again.
Yeah. And just from that experience alone, I can't have my patients go through this.
Yeah. It was not pleasant.
Yeah. It works for the right patient.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's pretty expensive.
It's expensive.
You have to have the perfect patient for it. It's pinchable fat.
Yeah. And there can be a little bit of user error too with you're using applicators. And so you really, you do want to see someone that really is knowledgeable about CoolSculpting, because if those applicators are placed incorrectly, you may not yield the same results as, you want to have.
Yeah. And then let's not forget there's that paradoxical, hyperlipidemia or a localized fat deposition that, is horrific, because you're trying to treat the fat and you're getting more fat developed in the area of the application.
Yeah.
So
I am next in line for Kybella.
All right, you got it.
I just
put yourself on the schedule.
But liposuction too, I think is really interesting. So I'll let you touch on that.
Absolutely. So, liposuction is considered a gold standard for body contouring. It works, and done in well-trained hands can get beautiful results. So in fellowship, I was trained in it. Submental is another great area to treat that. Very nice reproducible results. Arms, legs, the The love handles are a great spot to do it. So I'm a huge fan of it. I think that liposuction, like all other procedures that we're talking about, need the right candidate. However, it's more for like areas of localized fat, not visceral fat. And it's a bit of a recovery afterwards, but with tumescent liposuction, really safe, can be done in the office. That's what we perform. And you can do it just with traditional tumescent liposuction. You can do it with laser assisted liposuction, where you have these devices that also heat up the fat tissue with a laser while you're doing the laser. And some of them also you can do radio frequency along with it at the same time. So there's a lot of different technology that you can use with liposuction. It works great, but it's definitely more recovery, potential complications as well. But I think that it has a place, and I do think that for the right patient, it can be an excellent procedure.
Yeah, definitely. I think, just for any body size, any body type, there's a way that you can use liposuction to help sculpt any area that they're interested in.
Yeah, and I mean, those images that you see on social media with that 3D liposculpture with the high definition lipo, I mean, they look impressive, but like with the techniques of like how they're etching the skin or whatnot, I've also seen like what they look like later on, and they don't look right. It's odd because they're kind of leaving like pockets of fat to almost give you that definition of abs and other muscles, but it just doesn't look right. So I don't know if that's the best solution, but lipo does work.
Yeah, lipo, and then some of like the tried and true gastric bypass surgeries. So things like the sleeves, the traditional bypass. Those, I agree, also kind of have that that right patient for those. Those kind of carry their own risk as well, though, as any surgery does. I know people have lost a significant amount of weight. I have several people in my life I know who have gone through different processes and lost a significant amount of weight, but they're dealing with some of kind of the fallout, GI upset, certain medicines they can't take, having a supplement with vitamins, things like that. So that's another method, I guess, for weight loss, but that's more, something you'd want to see a bariatric doctor about for sure.
Yeah. And those are for morbidly obese patients. Yeah. So it's not like something that, you take lightly. I mean, there are complications associated with, you may not feel well after.
Yeah.
And I think you have to do testing to qualify.
Yeah.
Not everybody's a candidate.
Yeah.
And just realizing too that, there's definitely a place, like you said, Courtney, for these procedures, but really making it important to know that these are tools to help in the toolbox. It's just another tool. So, reinforcing that those lifestyle modifications can maintain the results that you see with these procedures.
Yeah. But now we have a new tool in our tool belt, right?
Yes.
So the GLP-1s, it's all the rage right now, and for good reason. I mean, there is so much interesting science and technology that we're using here to help patients lose weight. So GLP-1s, glucagon-like peptide 1 agonists, are these new wave of medications that are helping patients with diabetes, obesity, as well as other chronic conditions. And it has really changed the game in how we're treating weight loss. They regulate insulin, as well as sugar control. And it's really remarkable, what we're seeing in terms of results and the weight loss. Wow.
Yeah, studies are showing that within a year on maximum dosing, you can see 10 to 20% body weight loss, in anybody.
Full transparency, you guys know I've been on the semaglutide since January last year, and my relationship with food has completely changed. Before, I felt like I maybe even had a little bit of like a binge eating disorder where, just emotional eating and eating out of boredom and things like that came into play, and even just being on it, besides the weight that I've lost. My relationship with food has really changed in a super positive manner, just not thinking about when's my next meal, what am I going to eat, I want this or I want that. It's really changed the game, I think, as far as some of these conditions that are kind of comorbid with weight gain.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's studies that are showing that it has promise in treating addiction and other psych disorders, which is really impressive. Like it's also like that mind-body connection. And I really do think there's a lot that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And we're going to learn a lot more in the future.
Yeah, I have several friends who, since starting, they've quit vaping, which has been phenomenal. Is something they had tried for so long to get off of. And then, just different sugar, sweets, things like that.
Yeah, it can reduce your risk of heart disease too. So.
I saw even some cancers it was reducing risk of, seems almost like a miracle.
And, they're really safe too. So there's a lot of safety data behind them as well. It's being offered, in a variety of different medical settings. So we even offer it here at our dermatology practice. But, it's really important that, you see a medical professional who's well-trained and not only just, prescribing the medicines, but really doing that follow-up. Also counseling on nutrition, exercise, and really helping to have the patient have a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, because some of these places, you don't know where they're getting their medicine from, and it seems a little shady. It's almost like the wizard behind the curtain. It's like, oh, here, we're just gonna sell you this medicine, and you just inject it, and
what gets me, like these online platforms where you're not even seeing a doctor or anyone and like you're like, here, take your medicine, and like I don't see any oversight, any management going on, and there are side effects associated with these medications. Let's not forget that. And who's really managing them? So it's kind of scary how easily accessible they are. So I really do advise like seeking someone who really has that training, that knowledge, so that you're doing it safely.
Who's writing their Zofran? I think it'll be really interesting to see the future of these, but also just kind of thinking about how it relates to the skin too. Just some of the things we've seen as far as dullness and skin texture, laxity, which I know we'll touch on next episode.
I think it was really important to really highlight what healthy bodies look like, healthy skin, and setting realistic expectations and sustainable behaviors in your lifestyle to really achieve the goals you're looking for.
Yeah, and just reminding everyone to use these tools as tools, always going back to those classic tried and true lifestyle modifications like diet and exercise. It'll keep you where you're at and hopefully maintain you.
Yeah, and be kind to yourself. It's hard. I feel like you have a slip up one day and maybe you eat, a sleeve of Oreos or you didn't go to the gym. And I think why people love New Year's is that just that feeling of this whole new, obviously this new year that maybe, okay, I'll be a new person, but you don't have to limit it to just New Year's. I was actually listening to a podcast last night talking about how people associate different beginnings with certain time. So like, before summer maybe, or beginning of the week, for example, Monday. So you don't have to limit yourself just to New Year's. If you feel like, man, like I haven't been in the gym in 3 days. All right. Like tomorrow's a new day. So let's
every day is going to be perfect and you might have a slip up and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we're a little too hard on ourselves, but and just being mindful of, all right, let's get back into it.
And I know it sounds cliche, but moderation, I think, is really key.
Yeah.
Extremes never work out. It's human behavior. It just never works out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a really good discussion. And I do want to stress that, everything that we talked about, especially with weight loss medication and procedures, I really want to stress that you see a trained healthcare provider who is an expert at those, procedures and prescribing those medications and is able to really guide you. I think that's really important. You shouldn't do this alone.
Yeah, so don't forget to listen for some upcoming podcast tips on beauty, wellness.
I hope you all enjoyed our podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. Skin Side out.
Thanks for listening. This episode of Skin Side Out is complete. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more tips, updates, and behind-the-scenes content, be sure to see what fun we're up to on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Noor Dermatology and Aesthetics. Check us out online at norderm.com. Discover why our patients give us 5 stars on Google. Call us today at 919-617-0717.